Okay, I thought I'd start class today with reading some verses from Ezekiel, chapter 37, 15 through 23. I'm just in the scripture now. This is extra. Okay. Listen to what it says. When your countrymen ask you, won't you tell us what you mean by this? Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I'm going to take the stick of Joseph, which is in Ephraim's hand, and that of the Israelite tribes associated with him, and join it to this Judah stick, making them a single stick of wood, that they will become one in my hand. So he's going to reunite Israel into one. Okay. Hold before their eyes the sticks you have written on, and say to them that this sovereign Lord says, I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them all around and bring them back to their own land. I will make them one nation in the land on the mountain of Israel. They will be one king over all of them. They will never again be two nations, be divided into two kingdoms. They will no longer defile themselves with idols, vile images, or any of their offenses. For I will save them from all their sinful backsliding, and I will cleanse them. They will be my people. I will be their God.
Ezekiel what, 36?
37, 18 to 23. Okay. All right, so like I said, I found this thing I did a long time ago when I was kind of new, getting study. I was a rabid Christian and got excited about the scriptures, and I got into them in deep study. And so one of the things I did was this. This is a complete genealogy from Adam to Jesus. And there's so many things along the way to get to that I will go through it with you. And anything you see, if you see something that strikes a chord or something you've heard in a message or sermon, speak up and contribute. That's fine, okay? We start with Adam and Eve. Good, right? They weren't born, I heard. The seed of the woman is the beginning. Theologians call that the proto-gospel, the gospel at the very beginning, the embryo. And then look what happened. We know Cain killed Abel, right? But look what it says here about Seth, Genesis 5:3. God granted me another child in the place of Abel. So there we go from Adam and Eve to Seth. Okay, that's the first step in the long genealogies. Then you look down the names. These are all the father of, the father of, the father of. Get down to Enoch. Anybody know something special about Enoch? Have read the scriptures or heard a sermon or something? Yep. Yeah. Genesis 5:24 says, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him. So there's two people in the Bible that didn't see death. The other one is Elijah and Enoch. Okay, then you go down to Methuselah, and he is what? The oldest. 969 years. Yeah, I think I memorized that. I'm going to write it in here. 969 years. Okay. And the thing is that when you do the numbers in Genesis, the flood came the same time he died. So when I first said it, I said, he died in the flood. And then somebody said, no, maybe he died just before the flood. Because his name means after he comes, there'll be a disaster. So that kind of thing. So Methuselah died, you knew the flood was about to happen. So that was a test. Okay, then go down to Noah, obviously, that we're all related to Noah. Okay.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know if it was you that taught this. I heard it somewhere. Noah lived to see Abraham's birth.
He came close, yeah. It could have been, yes.
Could have been. Is that?
Take a look at Noah, and then go down to where Abraham is. It's several generations, so I kind of doubt it.
But remember, Noah lived.
Yeah, 930 years. Noah.
Okay, 930.
Yeah, that could be several generations.
Generations.
Yeah, he could have made it to see Abraham. But then take a look at Shem. He's important because what? What's going on today that everybody's talking about just now? He is the father of the Shemites. That's where Semitic comes from. Okay, his name is what produced Semitic. So anti-Semitic, he's the one where it comes from. He's the ancestor to the Arabs and the Jews, right? And the Assyrians and so on. Yeah. So that's where the word Semite comes from Shem. Because Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Japheth was the Gentiles, okay? And Shem was the Middle Eastern. All right? And I wrote down a verse here when I was looking through this. 2 Chronicles 7:20, if you're taking notes. It's a good verse. He says, I will make it a byword and object of ridicule among all peoples, talking about Israel. I will make them a byword and an object of ridicule among all peoples. And the word, I looked up the word byword is a negative term, a derogatory term. So even today, Israel has made a byword, okay, and a ridicule from all the nations. So that was their legacy for disobeying God. And they've been that way ever since. It really starts with Abraham. The research I did said Abraham was the first Semite. And when he came from Ur all the way around to Palestine, Israel, I should say. Shouldn't call it Palestine. Israel. And he refused to worship the gods of Canaan. And so he was looked on badly as they became anti-Abraham, who was a Semite. So that's kind of where the name kind of got started. Okay, next page, you can see the generations then. Down to Terah, the father of Abraham. And then you see Abraham and Sarah, okay. They produced Isaac, who's in the line. And all these verses say the same thing that God said to Abraham. He said to Isaac and Jacob and Judah, that you will be the one, okay. Isaac found Rebekah, okay. And then Jacob had 12 sons, but he had 2 wives and 2 concubines, right? Do you guys remember the story? That he went to work for Laban, and he said, you can have my daughter, Rachel. That's who he loved. He fell in love with Rachel, met her along the way. And he said, well, you got to work 7 years, you can have her. And then he worked 7 years, and he says, well, you got to have my other daughter first. She's older. So he had to work another 7 years for Rachel. So finally, Jacob had Rachel. But Leah had the sons Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The first 6 of Jacob's kids were from the mother Leah. The next 2 were from Leah's handmaiden. Her name was Rachel. Okay, no, her name was Zilpah. That's what I wanted. Okay, her name was Zilpah. Okay, and she had two of them, and then the Rachel's handmaiden had 2 more. That's 9 and 10. Okay, Dan and Naphtali, and then Rachel had the last 2, Joseph and Benjamin. So Joseph was the 11th, and that was one he loved. Okay, he had to go through a wife and 2 handmaidens to get to the one that he really cared about. And so what does that lead you to? Joseph was their first child, so what happens with Joseph? You guys know this.
What happened to Joseph?
Yeah.
Well, his brother sold him into slavery. He wound up in Egypt.
Yeah, but why did they sell him into slavery?
One more time.
Why? Yeah, he was the favorite.
He was the favorite.
That's why he was the favorite. He was the first child of Rachel. That's what made him the favorite of all of them. Again, he had a coat of many colors. Then Benjamin was the youngest. And when the brothers go into Egypt, he stays with his dad. He's the youngin. He's the baby.
Right hand. That's what Benjamin means.
Okay. He's the one that stayed with them. Okay.
Why did you say that, I think you mentioned this last week, but I forgot. Why did God choose to have this bloodline to Jesus through Leah then? Jacob and Leah?
Well, again, we don't know. God just chose it. That was his plan.
Oh, okay.
Because we're going to get to, guess who else is in his line? Rahab the harlot. Tamar, who pretended to be a harlot. So I think maybe God just put ordinary people in the line of the Messiah. You know, see, that's one of the things that you learn about the Scripture is that nobody would write this. If I was writing the history of my family, I would leave a lot of this out. Yeah, it doesn't look like Israel looks very good. Yeah, so somebody that wrote it gave the truth. I think that kind of lends you to the truth when they leave the bad things and the discolored things.
But it didn't have to be written, but it had to be written to show the lineage of Christ.
Right.
So you have to do that whether you like your uncle or not. He's got to be included in that.
Yeah, but she's saying, why did he choose that person to go through?
Well, that's my 3rd question when I get to heaven. my first one is, am I in the right place? Am I early? And then I'll ask that.
That's the question.
Yeah, but you're going to have to be in purgatory for 1,000 years.
Yeah, I gotta get those first two out.
Okay, then I need to tell you, this is one of the most ridiculous stories in the entire Bible. This, the account of Judah and Tamar. Does anybody have any idea what happened between them?
Oh, this is.
Wasn't that a rape?
Genesis 38? No?
He is father, he's the father-in-law. And
Yeah.
his sons died, they would not.
Yeah, he married a woman, okay, and had 3 sons. The first one died. God took him. The second one, this is a weird thing. He spilled his semen on the ground. And then the next verse says, and this is an abomination to God. So I've heard a lot of pastors say this is condemning masturbation.
He didn't want to share it, give his.
No, he, instead of impregnating his wife, he put his semen on the ground. Okay.
That was his job to let her have children.
Yeah, he was for his brother. That's what Judah said to him. Then the third son was and Tamar was the wife he found for his third son. He went and found a wife, and her name was Tamar, and brought her to him. And he never had children, but she said, I don't know that his kid's not going to be mine. So she disguised herself as a prostitute, went on the road to where Judah was heading, and seduced him. Okay, and when he had to pay her, he said, I'm going to give you a calf, a sheep, okay, for the price of the prostitution. And he says, well, she said, I don't really trust you, so give me something that indicates that you're going to pay me. And so he put a cord around, he took her cord and a signet of his, and she kept it. And then finally, Judah realizes that he had slept with his son's wife. So his daughter-in-law would be, right? Yeah. Yeah. And the child became, next page, Perez. Perez's breach, that he's the one that came out first from, because she had twin sons. Tamar had twin kids. And then God indicated Perez would be the one. Okay. Now again, this stuff is so amazing. Take a look at that's the trouble. We don't have Bibles anymore. I should put it on a screen somewhere or print it out. But Deuteronomy 23:2 says that a immoral child shall not sit in the congregation of Israel until the 10th generation. So nobody could be king of Israel till the 10th generation. Now count from Perez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. David, number 10, became the king of Israel till the 10th generation. So sometimes we look at like Deuteronomy and we don't read things like that, but there's a lot of gems in there that come out if you dig deep in it.
What do they mean by immoral child?
Well, he had sex with his daughter-in-law, and they weren't married.
Hezron didn't do it, Ram didn't do it, why were they immoral?
Well, that's just in the law. That's in the law of Moses.
This is a line too.
Yeah, that they keep, I guess, pure. I'm guessing at why that did it, but that happens a lot where God punishes to the 4th generation. Okay, he waits. Remember, he told Abraham, in 400 years you're going to come back because the Amorites are not full yet; they're sin. So that's just what it says in Deuteronomy. Now Ruth, the chapter and verse, gives the line of Perez. It gives these names all the way to David. Okay, that's what Ruth does. It's amazing. At the end of Ruth, he gives the line of Perez. Now look it down and see where they come in. Okay, take a look at Solomon and Rahab. Where does she enter the picture in history of Israel? Where does Rahab enter the picture?
Spies.
What?
The spies.
Yeah, the spies. They go in to spy Joshua and Caleb go in, and they meet Rahab, and she said, "I'll leave a little cord in the window to guide you guys. Then you come back." And so she's a prostitute, and she helps them. And then this guy Solomon marries her, and she gets in the line of Christ. Okay, and she has what? They have Boaz, the story of Ruth. And then Boaz marries Ruth, okay, so she's in the line of Christ too. And they have a child, Obed, then Jesse, the father of David, and then David and Bathsheba. Now David had an affair with Bathsheba, right? So here's the king of Israel. I think if he was in charge of writing this, he wouldn't have put that in there, but he did. And she had the child that he had with her died. Did you know that? Yeah, it did. Bathsheba was not the one I mean, Solomon was not the one that he had with Bathsheba. They were married at the time.
That's amazing, because he had many other children.
Yeah, they had a bunch of children. Yeah, yeah. Absalom was the oldest, and he was the one that gave David fits. But what I want to show you here is that David, it says in Chronicles that he was crying, and the child was sick, and it was not very strong, and then it died. The child that he had with Bathsheba through the adultery died, and he gets up and washes his face and goes about his business. And his servant said, "David, what's going on here? When the child was alive, you were crying and moaning and grieving, but when it's dead, you stopped. What's going on here?" And David made a profound statement there. He said, "He will not come to me, but I will go to it." And that indicates what? I'll let you guess.
Afterlife.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the thing that theologians hang on, the idea that babies that are born will go to heaven. Because he said the baby could never believe in Jesus, and he said, and that's just a tiny little snippet.
And also, it's interesting too, because one reason he just got up, they asked him, and he said, "I was praying," and God said no. And so he accepted it.
But saying that he will not come to me because he's dead, but I will go to him. Yeah. So that's the passage that worked there.
I just wanted to say too about when Rahab, because I was always, growing up, you hear that she was a prostitute and all that. And I don't know that we know that much about her, but just like today, where there's trafficking, the king could have just decided this beautiful little girl, Rahab, was going to, be his mistress, and then was going to become a prostitute. To me, it doesn't necessarily, like, I used to think poorly of her because of that, but she may not have made a choice in that.
Well, she had faith in the two spies, and she.
She was pretty.
Well, women had very little choice in anything when I was in
Yeah.
Right.
I'm reading a book called Pearl in the Sand. It's the story of Rahab, and I have gotten about halfway. But her father sold her to prostitution because they were going through a famine, and they were poor and they had no way to make money. So he wanted to send her to the temple to be a temple prostitute, and she refused to do that. And so she chose to, she said, "I'll have one partner." And she took him for about 3 months, and I've just gone through the spy story.
But is it a work of fiction, though?
Well, it is, it's historical fiction.
Yeah.
It's historical fiction, it's not, but it's written by a Christian.
Is that Francine Rivers by any chance?
No, she's from Iran. The lady is from Iran, and she teaches, she has a women's ministry at Yale. But it's not, it's the biblical story, but it's historical.
Yes, basically, I love those kind of books.
One
It's
of
with you.
Yeah.
Ron, one of the things, and I think you'll back me up on this, is that Rahab asked for her family be saved, and archaeologically is the northwest corner of Jericho, although burned, is the only part that's saved, which is where Rahab's apartment was.
That's cool.
That's a little interesting.
Well, that's what I was calling for. Yeah.
Pardon?
That's what I was calling for. If you
Yeah.
have an interesting tidbit, it should be good. Feel free to share it. All right, now we get David and Bathsheba.
Also, just real quick, that's where the concept, a lot of Christians call it the, what's the line? No, I have it in my head. The scarlet thread.
Yeah.
You heard of the scarlet thread?
Yeah.
And it goes all the way through the scriptures, and it starts with Rahab, the scarlet thread.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Rahab was the thread that puts out the Rahab.
Okay, so David was not the first king, but he should have been. Saul was given because the people were clamoring for a king like other countries have. So God gave them Saul, and Saul abused them and taxed them. So David was the one that God had intended to be the first king of Israel. But they chose Saul because he was tall, but he was from the tribe of Benjamin too, which meant he wouldn't have been in the line of Christ. So, yes. So, see, that's where Paul the apostle was, from the tribe of Benjamin. Apostle Paul was a Benjaminite too, same as Saul. So that's where he got his name. Saul he named after the king of Israel. Okay, I think, I assume that. Okay, now here's where the genealogy split, all right, between Nathan and Solomon. Solomon is the line of the Messiah, but Mary's line is on the right side there. And she goes, it's all in Luke. I didn't make this up. It's all in the book of Luke. All right, so Solomon reigned, and he, at the end of his life, turned away from God, turned into idolatry. And God says, because you did that, I'm going to do what? How did he punish Saul? He ripped the kingdom in half. After Solomon died, and it says the prediction in 1 Kings 11, if you want to write that down, look it up later, 11 to 13, and 29 to 39, 1 Kings 11, God says, because you did that, Solomon, I'm going to rip your kingdom apart. But I'm not going to do it in your lifetime. You know what he said, why he said that? Because of your father David. He was special, so I'm not going to do it in your lifetime, but after you die, your kingdom's going to be split. So Rehoboam was the son of Solomon. The other one was a guy named Jeroboam. Rehoboam was in the south, Jeroboam in the north. And he was a servant in Solomon's house. And so he took a bunch of people and went north. Okay. And so they established the kingdom of Israel, and Judah in the south stayed. One other tribe stayed with him was Benjamin. Now, if you see that story, there's another story that's really weird in the scriptures where Benjamin had a prostitute, and all the other brothers punished him, and they killed a bunch of Benjaminites. So the tribe had gotten really, really small. So Judah was by far the biggest tribe, but take a look at the end, okay, let's see. Let's see, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, okay, I wrote it down somewhere, okay. Okay. Oh, here it is. It's 2 Chronicles 11, 16, and 17, if you want to write it down. It says, the godly of Israel, the 10 tribes that left, because their heart was with God and wanted to worship in Jerusalem, where they said God lives in Jerusalem, they left. They left Israel, joined themselves onto Judah. So there's a whole flux of people that would have been in the 10 tribes, but they left and came down to Judah. Some from all 10 tribes joined unto Judah. You had Benjamin, the smallest tribe. So what did that lead to? What were the outcome of that situation? There's a couple things that you should notice. Anybody want to try? I always make my students work and think to make sure.
Those tribes came back.
Yeah. There were several from each tribe left and joined to Judah because they know that that's where God was in Jerusalem, not Jeroboam was an apostate, so they left him. And then they began to build idols and a whole new, I think Shechem was their capital, and they had a bunch of idols and stuff. So they just went all out. And eventually they're going to be taken captive by the Assyrians. That's where the Assyrians come in. They capture the northern kingdom and take it away. Yeah, they kind of all dissolved into Judah. Yeah, because there wouldn't be enough of their tribe to propagate it. So what it did is make no one knows what tribe they're from. See, the records were lost, and so no one knows. You know, a Jew says, what tribe are you from? They don't know. Because it all got put together. But it also says that every tribe is in Judah. There's a representative of every tribe is within Judah. And they're called the what? The Jews. That's where the name Jew came from. So the Jews are all of the tribes, but the biggest one was by Judah, by a long shot. So that's to me, that was when I discovered that verse. You know, I tell you, like, there's all these little verses that are hidden as you read through the scriptures and what.
2 Chronicles what?
11, 16, and 17 is where it says that the godly left and joined themselves unto Judah.
Did you say that the 10 tribes that were in the north began to worship idols?
Yeah. Yeah, when I was in Israel, they showed you where their idols were. They had an altar there, all in the northern part of Israel. Do you know anything about that, Larry?
Yeah, if you go up to Tel Dan, you can actually throw a rock into Lebanon from the altar. Literally, I mean that. It's that close to Lebanon, the border.
It's in ruins now, but it's in ruins, but it's there.
It's ruins. Now they've built a framework there so you can see what the altar would have looked like. And it's the actual place where they worship the golden calf and that kind of thing also.
Yeah.
So the tribe of Dan moved north. The tribe of Dan was originally down by Gaza. But when the Philistines came in, they moved north into the cool country up at Mount Hermon and right below it, the headwaters of the Jordan River.